Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're studying for CIMA E2, you've come to the right place. Today, we're diving into a really big idea from your syllabus, business ecosystems. And trust me, this isn't just about ticking a box for your exam. It's about understanding a massive shift in how business strategy actually works today. So, let's get right into it.
You know, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? The old ways of thinking about strategy, they're like an old, outdated map. It just won't help you find your way anymore. The entire landscape of business has been redrawn, and that new terrain, that's the business ecosystem. And that's exactly the map we're going to be learning to read together.
So here's our game plan for today. First up, we're going to look at why things have changed so dramatically. Then we'll get a solid definition of what a business ecosystem actually is. After that, we'll get into the fun stuff, the strategy. How do you create value? What part do you play? And finally, we'll look at the big external players, like regulators, who are setting the rules of the game.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1. Look, before we can even start to use this new map, we've got to understand why the old one is basically useless now. This is going to cover syllabus points 1.1 and 1.2, and we'll really focus on those big forces that are changing, well, everything.
All right, so we're going to start with something you've probably seen before, PESTLE analysis. But here's the thing. While all of these factors matter, I want you to really zoom in on the T for technological. That's the real engine of change here. Digital disruption. It's the force that's basically creating the perfect storm for these ecosystems to grow, while the old ways of doing business are left struggling to keep up.
And this comparison here just shows it all, doesn't it? On one side, you have the old, predictable, straight-line way of doing things. But on the other, you have this complex, interconnected web. I mean, think about it. How are tiny fintech startups able to challenge huge established banks? It's not because they have bigger buildings or more staff. No way. They win because they're part of a network. They're agile, they're connected, and they create value through the platform.
So, if the world is now this giant connected network, that brings us to our next big question in Section 2. What exactly is this network? This is where we get to the core definition from syllabus point 1.3. We're going to define the business ecosystem.
Okay, so here's the textbook definition, but let's break that down. The most important thing for you to remember is this: stop thinking in straight lines. An ecosystem is more like a living, breathing web. It's not just you, your suppliers, and your customers anymore. It's also your competitors, your partners, even the regulators. And all of you are interacting, influencing, and basically shaping whether or not you succeed. It's a whole new ballgame. Now, every ecosystem is made up of its participants, right? So when you get a scenario in your exam, you need to become a bit of a detective. Ask yourself these three things about any company in the picture. 1, what's their role? Are they a big fish or a small one? 2, what's their reach? How far does their influence really go? And 3, and this is crucial, what's their capability? What's their superpower? What do they bring to this ecosystem that is absolutely unique?
But it's not enough to just know who's playing the game. You also have to understand how they're playing it together. Think of these as the rules of engagement. Are they bound by rigid contracts, or is it all based on informal handshakes and trust? How are all these players actually linked up? And, this is the big one, how does value flow between them? Because that flow of value, that's literally the lifeblood of the entire ecosystem.
So what holds this whole thing together? Well, it really boils down to two key forces. The first is what we call orchestration. Think of it like a conductor in an orchestra. There's usually one central player making sure everyone is playing in harmony and working toward the same goal. The second is mutuality. This is the shared purpose, the common standard that makes everyone want to be part of the orchestra in the first place. For an ecosystem to really work, you absolutely need both.
All right, on to Section 3. Now we're getting to the really juicy stuff, the strategy. This is where it all comes together, covering syllabus points 1.4 and 1.5. We're going to look at how companies move beyond just surviving in this new world and actually learn how to thrive by mastering the art of creating and capturing value.
So here it is, the million-dollar question for any manager or strategist out there. It's not enough to just have a great product anymore. The real puzzle you have to solve is this. In this crazy, complex network, how do you actually create value? And maybe even more importantly, how do you make sure you get your fair share of it?
Let's really unpack this. The old way? Super simple. It was a straight line. You'd make a thing, you'd sell the thing. Done. But now, value is co-created. It's not made, it emerges from all these different players working together, collaborating in ways that aren't always predictable. The whole mindset has to shift from what can we do by ourselves to what amazing things can we achieve together.
Okay, so how do you actually make money from all this? Well, you've got to be smart about it. It's a three-step process, really. First, you've got to know your role. Are you the one conducting the orchestra, or are you the star violinist playing a very specific, crucial part? Second, you have to find those key points in the network where you are absolutely essential, where the whole thing would fall apart without you. And third, you need to figure out your capture mechanism. Are you going to get paid directly for each transaction, or will your value come indirectly through that main orchestrator?
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4. We just talked about finding your role, so now let's actually look at the specific types of roles or archetypes that you can play. This is all about Syllabus Point 1.6, and it gives us a fantastic framework for understanding the different strategic hats you can wear.
Okay, everyone, lean in for this one. This slide is pure gold for your exam, so make sure you get this. You've got 4 main roles. The orchestrator, that's the big boss, like Apple running the App Store. They set the rules. Then you have the asset provider. Think of the company that provides the mapping data that makes Uber work. They own a crucial piece of the puzzle. A process provider makes something easier, like a platform that lets you book a table at any restaurant. And finally, the solution provider, who handles everything from start to finish, like a full-service interior designer. You have got to be able to spot these roles in an exam scenario.
And that brings us to our final section, Section 5. So far, we've been looking inside the ecosystem. Now, we're going to zoom out and look at the huge external forces that are constantly pushing and pulling on it. This covers your last 2 syllabus points, 1.7 and 1.8, and it's all about the massive impact of regulators and, of course, the customer.
Right, because here's the reality. These ecosystems don't just exist in some kind of bubble. Out in the real world, you've got governments and regulators who are scrambling to figure out how to even deal with them. And if you're planning any kind of long-term strategy, you absolutely have to understand the challenges they're facing.
I mean, it's a real headache for regulators. It truly is. First, the technology is just moving at lightning speed, way faster than they can write new laws. Second, you have things like ride-sharing that completely blur the lines. Is it a taxi company? A tech company? Who knows? Third, there's just this explosion of different business models. You can't have one rule for all of them. And finally, let's be honest, companies like Uber are masters at finding and exploiting loopholes in the old rules. It's a constant and very difficult game of catch-up.
But you know, there's one force out there that's even more powerful than the regulators, and that's the customer. We are now living in the age of the empowered customer. People have endless choices, they're not loyal to brands like they used to be, and they expect everything to be seamless, instant, and personalized just for them. And if your ecosystem can't deliver on that promise, they're gone. In a heartbeat.
Ooh, okay. Let's do a super quick recap of the whole chapter just to lock it all in. Point 1. The old business world is gone, thanks mostly to technology. Point 2. Business ecosystems, these interconnected webs of players, are the new reality. Point 3. Value isn't made in a straight line anymore. It's co-created within the network. Point 4. To win, you need a strategy. You need to pick your role and know how you're going to get paid. And finally, point 5, don't ever forget that all of this is being shaped by powerful outside forces, like regulators and demanding customers. Got it?
So what does this all mean for your E2 exam? Here's the bottom line. This is not about memorizing definitions. It's all about application. You're going to be given a case study, a business scenario, and you'll have to use these ideas as your toolkit to analyze it. You'll need to look at a company and say, okay, what's their position in the ecosystem? How are they trying to capture value? You've got to think like a real strategist.
And I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on, because this isn't just exam theory. This is the real world. Soon, you'll be the management accountant in the room, and someone's going to turn to you and ask for advice. So how would you take a traditional, old-school company and help them navigate this transition? How do you guide them from their simple, straight-line world into the complex and sometimes chaotic world of a business ecosystem? That's your challenge. Really think about that. All the best with your studies, and I'll see you next time.